Welcome to the InfoMullet YouTube channel. If you enjoy this content, please like or share. And if you'd like to support the InfoMullet by becoming a mulleteer, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate your support. And again, for those who are just joining, if you are a senior mulleteer, check your Patreons. There's a message asking you to submit questions for 2021 New Year's Eve Ask Me Anything forecast. Those questions, I'll edit them for clarity and make sure that they're good forecasts. I'll turn them back over to all mulleteers. And with that, you can go ahead and vote for which forecast you want to see me answer. New Year's Eve, I'll do a Facebook Live Ask Me Anything. It'll be like this. Bonky may have a party hat. It'll be late. We don't drink, so it won't get too wild or crazy. But we'll go ahead and answer these live, and I'll just give my gut instinct, then follow up with an article in January and do a review. But these are now the reviews of the forecasts we did in New Year's Eve last year. And one of the ones is, which is more dangerous to the Iranian people, suppression by the regime in Tehran or a violent fall of the government and the chaos that may result? First of all, the question was, I don't predict any regime collapse. That was the main part of the prediction, is I don't see the regime collapsing. Iran, last time we did this, we talked about those conditions that are ripe for instability. The fighting age male youth bulge, economic expectation misalignment as typified by high unemployment of the youth, their future expectations, or there begins to become a gap between what they anticipated and what it is. Whereas those conditions pre-pandemic were not that great in the US for instability, they were really primed in Iran for instability. And you see this swath that goes Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, where this you've got a high youth bulge that's age 17 to 35, a lot of fighting age males in that group, and increasingly fighting age women as well. You have unemployment, high unemployment, 20% unemployment pre-pandemic. And then you have this expectation misalignment where they're not feeling like they're being, their concerns are being taken care of. This has led to significant instability, but it hasn't led to a violent overthrow. And the reasons why is Iran has built a very sophisticated apparatus to control its people. It has superb counterinsurgency capabilities honed in Syria. It's got paramilitary forces of the Baji. The Baji are a group of sort of like, they're kind of like a 60 to 80,000 person paramilitary force. They're not a legal force, but they are like hardline supporters of the nationalists and the Ayatollah. They can come in from the countryside. They tend to be more rural, and they will come break up and crack down on protests. And because of the Iranian intervention in the Syrian war, they have been much more organized into fieldable fighting forces. Baji went over to Syria. So you've got this thing that's going to make it very hard. I predicted that if it did collapse, it wouldn't be as bad as Syria, because what Iran has going for it is Iran has an anchor of a perception of being Iran. There's tons of ethnicities in Iran. People tend to mistake, oh, Iran, it's one ethnicity. No, there's lots of languages spoken, lots of cultures. It's a very diverse, but the sense people have of being Iranian is very, very strong. And so I would see it much more likely a civil war than like Syria, where it breaks up into 20 factions and they're all fighting each other in sort of an ethnic sense. Like you see the Kurds breaking apart, or the Arab Kurds from the Arab Alawites, from the Arab Sunni, stuff like that. I wouldn't see that in Iran happening at all. What would be possible in Iran, and is much more likely, I think, if Iran's going to collapse, it's going to be a Soviet Union style collapse. And this is a pattern in what I do called fracturing of the elites. Iran has a series of factions at the very top level. One faction might be the Quds military and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and their industrial base. Another faction might be the mullahs and their supporters. You have different factions of elites. And when the trust of the government of those elites evaporate, like it did in the Soviet Union, or what's facing Putin now, then you begin to have a sort of a revolution from the top that just breaks up, and it can lead to a collapse. Again, I don't think it's a very likely scenario. And I think right now, as Iran is pretty violent in its suppression, it ends up killing a lot of people and suppressing these riots. It's still, suppression is always less violent than civil war, especially when you wage Assad style and you just get hundreds of thousands of people killed. But I did not think it very likely to have that effect. So thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to follow the InfoMullet, visit us on Facebook or Twitter. And if you'd like notifications when we post new video content, click on the red subscribe button below the video. If you've ever wanted to become a mulleteer and support the InfoMullet, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate the support.